And what about the Irish? They just changed the word to indentured servant to hide it. Not this shit again. I have had to make this video several times over the past couple of years, but let's get into it again. The Irish were never victims of chattel slavery. Saying that the Irish were indentured servants was entirely accurate. Now, the Irish indentured servants were treated like absolute dog shit, I will give you that, but they were in no way slaves. Now, the Irish indentured servants were under contract usually for 4 to 7 years, give or take, and whenever they were finished with that contract, they had their freedom. The slaves, on the other hand, were not under contract. They were property, and they were treated as such. Because they weren't seen as human, they were typically treated by veterinarians if they needed any medical attention, and they were usually bred like other livestock, and when the babies were born, those babies were also property, and sometimes they would just sell them off. And this is usually when somebody comes in and says something like, well, the Irish used to sell their kids. The difference is the Irish people, as horrible as it was when they'd have these children and they sold them off, they would get the money so that they could survive. But the slaves, however, they would have their children taken away from them and sold, and they got nothing for it. Indentured servants could own land someday. Slaves couldn't even own themselves. Indentured servants could be punished for breaking contracts. Slaves could just be beaten, raped, or murdered for no reason at all. And when the Irish were finished with their contracts, they got to melt into society. They got to vote. They got to buy homes. They got the opportunity to build wealth. The slaves didn't. But even when the slaves were set free, they didn't get any of those things. They had to deal with things like segregation. Then they had to deal with redlining. Now they have to deal with mass incarceration. The oppressive systems didn't stop, they just changed uniforms. So no, servitude was in no way like slavery. Not economically, not legally, not generationally. And besides, this isn't the oppression Olympics. If slavery makes you feel uncomfortable, that's a good thing. If your reaction to all this is that the Irish suffered too, then you're not really looking for justice. You're basically just saying, well, we suffered too, so why shouldn't they? Maybe it's just me, but I just feel like that we should probably be looking for a solution rather than trying to spread around the problem.